in the downward forecast is the federal funds and the big, beautiful Act bill. And so that is a big push, but also our unemployment rate in Oregon is higher than the national average. You're seeing things just slow down on the revenue side for taxes. If the tax cuts Act bill, and so that is a big. I sound all right. I sound okay. So
Repeating.
yeah, worth repeating. So so as the federal tax code gets shifted, Oregon's tax has kind of we're one of the states that kind of automatically ties our tax code to the federal code. And so when the federal taxes go down, Oregon's taxes go down. And so taxes are what we live on in public service. And this can serve to make our problems a little bit worse heading into the next year of the biennium. So I wanted to also talk about another thing that we're finding out very locally here on the federal government side. We just received word, it was in the Oregonian today. At the beginning of this week, we found out that in late August, Portland Public Schools, which houses a program called Columbia Regional Programs. Columbia Regional Programs is a regional program. So Portland Public Schools has a contract for a regional program called Columbia Regional. And they look a lot like us in Columbia Regional in terms of how we operate our K-12 special education services in districts. So occupational therapists, physical therapists, school psychologists, those types of specialists who are deployed to work with kids with low incidence but high intensity disabilities. So one of the grant streams in Portland Public Schools program in the Columbia Regional program is specifically to serve kids with deaf blindness. And they got a letter from the Trump administration notifying them that their grant would no longer be funded. It has been retracted and that they need to close their grant out. This program serves, I think 110 students are served by that program who have significant needs, and they have real lives and they have real families. And this program will not be run in Columbia Regional. And the stated reason is because Portland Public Schools as an entity has a strong commitment to equity, anti-racism, and inclusion. And the federal government letter, the letter from the federal government was specific in that it believes that those values are in conflict with the current administration, who has other values that they want to see their grantees embrace. And so this is new news, but it is something that I need the board to pay attention to. And I know we are paying attention to it because it's not like an unknown that Northwest Regional, the largest ESD in the state, is pretty committed to those same principles that Portland Public Schools is, and that we as an ESD actually written into statute, in a state statute, are by definition, an equity organization. And we have a responsibility, not only legally, but morally. And here at Northwest Regional ESD, I have to say it's kind of baked into our DNA. So the idea that somehow we're going to stop serving kids furthest from opportunity and ensuring that they get what they need to have full access to an education system just doesn't seem like something that's going to happen here at Northwest. And actually, I would ensure that it does not. But it does put us in the crosshairs and it does put us in a difficult position. And nothing has happened yet. Maybe AI is surfing YouTube right now and we're in big trouble after this meeting. But I just want the board to know, and I've said this to this board, and this board has affirmed our stance many times over, that we are fundamentally a inclusion and diversity and equity institution, and will continue to be so. And that is a pretty big bummer. So I want to end my public comments on a celebratory note. I know that she's going to hate this, and she's in the back of the room, but we have Tracy Goldner back there, and Tracy is a long-time administrator and awesome employee here at the ESD. She's our communication manager. She has a long-standing history with the ESD because her dad was a long-standing, amazing employee here at the ESD, Richard. And I'm just delighted to share that she's been selected as the 2025 recipient of the Outstanding Achievement in ESA Writing and Research Award, and that's from our national organization. She's actually hating. She actually is hating this right now, by the way. But she is going to get nationally recognized at the National Conference in Colorado, and I just couldn't be more proud of her and the work. And I know that she would hate it if I didn't mention that she's on a team full of pretty amazing people. So Megan Mahoney is a big part of Tracy's team, and Kelsey, who is got her little boy and she's on maternity leave, is also a big part, obviously, of that team. And what I love about the project that Tracy is being recognized for, it's called Solution Stories, and it's a number of shorts that highlight the amazing work that happens here, but that happens as a result of things called, in this case, ESAs. In our state, they're called ESDs. Because fundamentally, like I just said, we are about serving kids furthest from opportunity. And when we do that work, it is unbelievably fulfilling for us as a community, but for kids and their families and the difference that our staff can make. And this series shows that work. I'm very, very proud of you and the team. So congratulations.
Take a selfie.
Take a selfie.
With that, are there any questions or comments for Superintendent Dr. Russell?
Just really briefly, I have one comment and then one question. My comment is actually to express gratitude, Dan, for your comments today. As somebody who grew up in poverty and primarily ate at school, and as a child with a disability who got services in this district, I think it's absolutely villainous that this administration is causing hungry bellies and eliminating funding for deaf and blind children. I want to thank all of the staff, and also I have a lot of gratitude that it's in state statute that we are an equity organization, but I want to thank the entirety of your staff for standing behind our principles, even though some other jurisdictions may not. I think in this moment, this is not only about our children, but also the federal government attempting to consolidate power. And I am proud to serve alongside my colleagues on this board who are standing up for democracy and defending our institutions, including our institutions of learning. So I was very happy to read your superintendent's report this week amid an onslaught of continued challenging headlines. So I just want to express my gratitude and that you continue to have my support for our position as an equity organization. The questions that I have, and I'm not sure if this question is best for Chair Timchuk or if it's best for you, but I'd like a little bit more information on the Higher Education Commission's justification for making such sweeping cuts to the outdoor school program. I don't believe that it is good policy making to not involve those most closely associated with an issue in the decision-making process. I'm disappointed that we weren't involved. What was their justification for this, and how can those of us that are on this board that don't serve in a more legislative capacity support the two of you in short session?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, this was a decision made outside of the view of K-12. We were not, and we're the largest outdoor school provider in the state. We were not consulted. Nobody in the K-12 stratosphere was consulted, and it happened very, very quickly at the end of the session. Our understanding of this is that the Higher Education Coordinating Commission believed that OSU Extension Services had reserve funds, that they were just cutting reserves, and that there would not be an impact to the actual program. That's our understanding. Our understanding from OSU Extension Services is that they don't understand that analysis. And so that is That is what we need to talk to legislators about. That this was a cut that they made that they did not know they were making that would actually have an impact on programs for kids. So one of the things that we're working on right now that we're currently disappointed in is that we have been asking for actual impact data for each district. Like there is information out there that says Beaverton lost this much money. We are only able to see our districts. And this is not a straight cut across the program for all school districts. This was a variable cut and they used a formula and we can't figure it out. And so part of our concern is that you have districts who we would consider, and no district in Oregon is wealthy. Okay, like we're in Oregon, you turn the corner, there's poverty everywhere, right? So like, I'm not saying that these districts have it great, but when you have districts that have local options and have more resource than other districts that get more money per student than some of our really poorest districts, something's kind of fundamentally off in that data set. And so we're trying to at least understand the problem better right now. This is all going to manifest in short session stuff. So we have some time. There's nothing we can do about it right now other than, buckle up and try to run the best program for kids.
Any other questions or comments? And thank you so much for the detailed report. And again, to welcome, what a thing to be welcomed back to. But I am so glad we have an experienced, committed staff to weather this with. And there are just so many unknowns. And this is the time for us to lift one another up and just not know, we're unfortunately in just a very reactive mode. And I would say with our legislators, it's going to be our job for them to hear from us as they're moving forward. I know right now their focus is on the transportation package and they need to get through this next week with the transportation package. But then after that, it will be, and just a reminder, a lot of these folks will be up for reelection. And our democracy works in the fact that we elect people that we think are doing a good job. So, that's what we need to make sure that they hear from us as a collective. And definitely that we are the voices for those that do not have a voice. So with that, we're going to move into celebrations. And from our nationally renowned, recognized, Tracy, if you will give us a recognition of good news about the Flip Museum.
There we go. Thank you. My name is Elsa Young, and I am an early intervention teacher on the Hillsborough EI team. For about the past 15 years, our team has planned community outings for our early intervention families. These outings give families opportunities to connect and explore out and about in the community with the support of their EI team. So we were very excited to learn about the Flip Museum about a year ago. At that time, it was a mobile children's museum that celebrated play by bringing fun equipment, toys, and learning activities to different events in the Portland metro area. In the past year, they were able to purchase a space in downtown Hillsborough, and we were very excited about that. The Flip Museum has partnered with our program in so many meaningful ways by meeting us at local parks for our early intervention community outings, attending our Harvest Festival at Hillsborough Early Childhood Center, offering space for our program when we discuss needing it, and even extending discounts to our ECSE families. The Flip Museum has been such a gift to our agency and our whole community. And on behalf of Northwest Regional ESD, I would like to thank the Flip Museum for the opportunity to collaborate. Jack Graham has worked primarily as an entrepreneur, earning the Portland Business Journal's 100 Fastest Growing Companies Award 6 times. His oldest daughter grew up at the Old Portland Children's Museum and is still today referred to by her nickname, Flip. He feels his youngest deserves a children's museum nearby, as do all the children in the community. And it is my honor to welcome Jack Graham, the founder and executive director of the Flip Museum. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Well, this is really wonderful to be included in this. Thank you for having me and letting me talk about what I'm passionate about. I'm spending every waking and not waking second thinking about this. My dreams are just about this too. It's amazing and awful at the same time to never not be thinking about work. But it's interesting to be here on this day when a pivotal program for kids is being taken away or being shrunk, because what I'm trying to do, bring back, another one of those. When we lost the Portland Children's Museum, it was a huge loss to the community. I couldn't believe that it really actually happened, but I've spent my career working in startups and felt like, well, I like having fun. I like starting businesses. We need fun and play in education, and we need institutions, places where families can go, educators can go, to keep that a part of your life, especially as screens are more and more a part of our daily life. Having that place where the community can come together, coming out of COVID and things like that. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about what I'm doing. Is the appropriate setting for that? So yeah, we started in 2021, right after we got word that for sure the Children's Museum was not reopening, and coming out of COVID, we needed, everyone was getting used to being together again safely. So we started as a mobile museum, and that's allowed us to go out into the community and meet people where they are. And one thing I've kind of learned in that part of the process is that wasn't just a necessity of the time, but there's a lot of the kids who need this the most. The families that are the most underserved are not going to necessarily have the means or the time to go just have a nice family outing to go to the Children's Museum. We need to go find them where they're at. And so this mobile portion of what we've done and what we've done with the organization is going to not only stay, but something that we need to expand, because we go to family shelters, we go to schools, and go to community events. And the more we do it, the more we realize what we aren't doing yet. And so it's been wonderful to see how that's impacted, and we're really trying to expand what we can offer. We have some teachers on our staff who've worked with both our board and our staff who've worked with Northwest Regional ESD. We have a woman who worked with the Tacoma Area Children's Museum, and up there they do some great work called Play to Learn out in schools, and we're working with them to integrate their curriculum as well, so that we can offer a wide variety of things. Here in Hillsborough, Applied Materials, being an institution, just gave us a big grant to fund a lot of programming related to Indigenous knowledge and wisdom around STEAM learning, so we can focus on science and engineering and sustainability and the environment from that Indigenous perspective. And we're working to build some exhibits as well with some of the Native community artists and so forth to be able to offer that to schools. So I'm really trying to find the funds here in this very difficult time, but we don't need a lot because we're a pretty small organization. We don't need a lot to do a lot. And just the support that you've given us has been, this past year has made a huge difference. So I'm eager to do more, both visiting your schools, but also opening up our doors. As you guys lose the ability to do field trips and things like, or whatever it is because of funding cuts, we have this location in Hillsborough. We don't own it, but the city helps us with a pretty, has helped us negotiate a lease that's pretty affordable. And, I'd love to continue to offer ways where it can be discounted or free or whatever to the families who need it most. We're For those who can pay, we pay, and the people who can't pay, we don't want to turn them away, whether it's our mobile museum or our brick and mortar. We're also working to open a space in downtown Portland. We've made a ton of really good progress on that. And I'm hoping that will be like a major institution, a really big children's museum that can give us more financial stability and also a more exciting destination for field trips. So more on that soon, but we have a lot of support from people from Suzanne Bonamici's office and Senator Reynolds down to the county and the city level as well. So I'm confident that will happen. I just have more work to do as well. So yeah, great. I didn't expect that. Right? Yeah, it's great. It's really nice to be here, and thanks for listening to me talk about it. I mean, I know this. You know, we want to adapt what we do to align with what your priorities are for learning, especially for the families and children who need it most. And so, eager to not only continue to partner with you, but get the feedback from your teachers and people like that on how we should shape our direction. So I had pictures, but it didn't work. If you want to go to our website, flipmuseum.org, you can see some of the pictures of our museum. You're welcome to come anytime. We're open 7 days a week. Any questions or anything I should talk about? Go ahead.
A question first. Thank you. This is so wonderful and beautiful. In a previous chapter of my career, I had the opportunity of working for 2 different branches of the Smithsonian Institution. And even before the pandemic, it was becoming so incredibly obvious that meeting children where they are is so much more accessible than expecting schools to bring youth to you on site. It just creates so much more access for folks from various socioeconomic classes. So thank you so much for centering that in your talk today. I'm curious, how did you start to partner with the ESD? Like, how did this partnership come to be? And also, as you are continuing on your growth path, who else are you partnering with? And in particular on the West Side, who are you partnering with?
Sure. Well, who's not here today is Melissa Hong, who was one of the people who got this started with me, one of the first board members who joined, and she was able to come on as our first executive director. She is now spending time with her family. We realized we're doing this because we value family, we value children. And so what's the point of doing this if we're neglecting our own kids? Right? He's like, I got a kid at home and I'm doing this all the time. And so she's at this stage focusing on her kids. I mean, this is really for her. She's the one who made the connections and has had so many of these good ideas. But, you know, from the beginning, it was around, you know, I know how to get things started, but I don't know. I'm not a teacher. I don't know any of these things. And so found not a lawyer and a doctor and an engineer and people, but we brought on one of the first people who also joined was an occupational therapist from Northwest Regional ESD. And Quinn Hoffman is her name. She sits on our board and continues to guide us as we go through. And it's like, well, this website doesn't work for the colorblind. Oh, I didn't even think about that, you know, but then also just things within how the school system works, how we can these things. So just trying to be intentional about who is helping us make decisions to see where we're missing things and what we can consider. Who are we working with on the West Side? You know, we do a lot of work. We've been visiting a lot of schools. It's been great. I think the Hillsborough area schools have brought us in the most. Probably Tamrec Elementary wins the award for most visits of the Flip Museum so far. We work with a lot of cultural organizations like Adelante Mujeres, some work with some of the organizations serving immigrants and refugees. I think who is in what area. Social Venture Partners, who is helping behind the Preschool for All initiative, just brought us on as a partner, which is exciting. So they're not only giving us money, but a lot of retired executives looking to support things. They care about early learning. And so they're kind of standing behind us, helping fill in some of the gaps. I don't know how to do everything. So that's been helpful. Trying to work with a lot of culturally specific organizations, and I'm not thinking of them all off the top of my head. No, yeah, I know. I think really it's just like, just try to, what is everybody, if we can there's a lot of organizations trying to do good work in the community. Washington County Health and Human Services was our first major funder, and they brought us in because if we if we have something for kids at the event, it's like it's STD testing or something, and no one's like, I'm going to go to STD testing. They're going to go to see the Flip Museum, and oh, the kids are playing. I'm going to go do this or find out about food stamps. It takes the stigma away from some of these much needed social services, as well as all the other benefits of processing trauma and things like that you can play, or learning to get along with kids you never met or don't even speak the same language as you. Now you're building a fort together. So they're unfortunately lost a bunch of the funding that we were expecting after March of this year. So that's one thing we're reeling from a bit. But I met with them today. They're still trying to figure out ways to support us, but they were by far our biggest funder for a while. Yeah, I'll stop. Yeah, I can just talk about this all day long.
Yeah. Any other? Well, we thank you so much. And obviously your passion comes through, and we appreciate your dedication and working with us. So thank you so much for all at the Flip Museum, and we wish you continued good luck as you expand. And so thank you so much for being here with us this evening.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Good. I'll probably head home to see my kid now. Yeah, for a few minutes.
I think we need to do it. Yeah. This will be the first time we don't take a.
All right, the next order of business, Board Secretary, do we have any public comment this evening?
No, Board Chairman Shuck, we do not.
Thank you very much. All right, with that, we move on to consent agenda.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second?
It was moved by Director Russell and seconded by Director Riley that we approve the consent agenda as amended. Is there any discussion? With none, calling the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes unanimously. All right, reports and discussions. First up, we've got early literacy services. Abby and Ryan, would you please?
About some of the early literacy grant opportunities in the state and how Northwest Regional is helping our partners in the community and in districts access those. Not that one.
Okay.
Yay. All right. And I'm Ryan Blasquez, a Director of Instructional Services. So most of the work I do is in school age program.
I'm Abby Lutzkowski. I'm our Early Learning Coordinator for Northwest Early Learning Hub and Northwest Parenting. If you've been around a while, Dorothy Spence previously occupied this job, so you might remember her.
Nice. And I had the opportunity to come in June and share about a lot of the work we're doing with teachers in the region, with leaders, some of the co-design work that we've done to match our PD offerings with the initiatives of districts. And all of that work is founded in the early literacy framework that dropped in 2023. It's a technical assistance document. I have one here if anyone's interested. Aesthetically pleasing document. Very good. But it details these 8 areas of literacy systems that need to be in place in order to find success for all kids.
And then in 2024, ODE came up with the community early literacy framework. And they did that in partnership with Oregon's Kitchen Table. And it was really meant to kind of round out the early literacy success initiative. So the initial framework is really about what happens within the school day. The community early literacy framework is about what happens beyond the bell. So practices for families to use at home, for community-based organizations. And it aligns really well. It just came out a little later. We don't have printed copies.
Showing off. Sorry, Abby.
All right, I'm just jealous.
So in order to support the implementation of all these different frameworks, there's also an adolescent framework that was published this last year, and a department at ODE now that specializes in pre-K 12 literacy, and they have a staff, and that's like a new thing, unbelievably, that our state department has reading specialists. But these four funding opportunities are meant to support these different frameworks and the different initiatives. So Abby's going to talk a little bit about the community grants in Birth to 5 and speak to the tribal grants as well. And I'll talk about these early literacy school district success grants. And they're the largest ones, and they came out first. And $90 million worth of funds distributed to districts based on their size. You might see it published that there were $120 million worth of funds, and that's because for that first biennium, there was a requirement of a 25% match for any planning and spending that you were going to do. Every district in Oregon got one. It took a little pushing and pulling from the State Department and work from ESDs to help support them in an organizer and having grant writers sit alongside of them, think about, try to find out, and oftentimes about what was happening in their literacy programs and what they needed to scale up and stop doing and all of those things. And because of all that work, and this was kind of an abrupt set of expectations, the 23-25 biennium was considered a jump start. So it was really about figuring out how you're going to move forward and align your work with the framework. The plans now are part of the integrated guidance, reporting, and planning. And the allowable uses of these dollars are the same in this biennium as they were previously: curriculum and materials, PD and coaching, hiring specific to literacy staff specialists or reading coaches, high dosage tutoring, and extended learning. And it's not that districts have to do all of these things with the money they get, but they need to have an articulated plan on how they would do those things eventually, right? So some of our smaller partner districts might only get $52,000 a year, where others might get 3.5 million. And so they're able to kind of meet the criteria of this allowable spending in different ways. But again, we're working as an ESD alongside them to formulate these applications, help them develop PD scope and sequence that's going to meet the requirements of the state, and then help them with the reporting based on what we're doing with them. And there were a few changes to the current iteration of the grant because of House Bill 3040. Because of advocacy, we're now able to spend, districts are now able to spend money on professional development for classified staff, who, as many of you know, are like charged with teaching intervention groups and small groups and are a really big part of literacy programming, and they weren't included in the allowable spending in the previous biennium. We also expanded some of the rules around spending for 4th and 5th grade. Previously, the language is all about pre-K to 3rd. I think a lot of our educators think about early literacy as elementary school, and so being able to have some latitude there has been important. And then allowing high dosage tutoring, which is a whole ball of wax I won't get into here, but and Abby will though, be able to do that outside of the school day and even outside of the school year. So these are all wins, I think, for our partners in the flexibility. And as I shared in June, we continue to build program and professional development with our district partners to meet the requirements of this framework and move the outcomes. And in addition to these state grant funds, Oregon went after some federal funding for a comprehensive literacy state development grant for the next 4 years, and they got it. It's about $55 million. And there were 100 eligible grantees based on need, 30 awards. It was a competitive application process. We worked with partner districts who needed like letters of support or help with the development of these grants and these plans. 5 of our districts did get them. And so this is going to be an additional chunk of change that is meant to align with the state work that they're already doing through IG. And I just want to like give a shout out to our governor. I don't know how often she gets those, but the commitment, the ongoing commitment and messaging around literacy, and I think more importantly, accountability, and ensure like getting districts who have been really autonomous to start using progress monitoring tools and reporting in different ways. Like she's pushing that. And the director of ODE, Dr. Williams, had a quote in our like beginning of the year kickoff that I've used like 5 times. And I'll read it here too, that accountability is not about blame. It's about shared responsibility and a deep commitment to our students' success. It means aligning our decisions, our resources, and actions with what students truly need to thrive. Done right, accountability is a tool for empowerment, partnership, and progress. And I've been an educator in Oregon a long time, but this is not like common sentiment where we were expecting everybody to progress monitor, benchmark screen, and do all these things. So I'm optimistic. The CLSD grants, they align with state expectation and requirements. Where we come into play with these now is that part of the grantee applications is they have to identify an ODE coach or an entity associated with ODE to make sure that the federal money is going along the lines of the state money. So we're not trying to create new things or buy the next shiny thing, like stay on the same track. And Oregon Response to Instruction and Intervention Project is a state project that many of you know is housed in Northwest Regional and is going to be a big resource for about 13 of the 30 grantees. And that includes hopefully everybody in region, but I didn't put the exact numbers because we have kind of a kickoff meeting Friday where people will learn more about how we can partner with them. But we got 3 of them who's committed to work with us. And this is a great opportunity because part of the language also in that coaching requirement is that the professional development things can happen with regional partnership. So the ESD will be intimately involved in that.
Thank you.
It's the big one.
The big one. So Ryan's team does a lot of work to support the districts with the district grants. We as an early learning hub, we're automatically eligible for the Birth Through 5 Literacy Plan funds. It's a mouthful. They rolled out a little bit later, so they came out about halfway through the last biennium. They are administered by the Department of Early Learning and Care, and they took their bucket of funds, which was about $9.7 million, $9.4 million, and split it between the 16 regional early learning hubs and recipients of the Early Childhood Equity Fund. And they used the same kind of funding formula that they use for the Kindergarten Partnership and Innovation Fund, which is another one of our funding streams. And we were told at the time, treat this like one-time funds, be careful about how you invest them because we're not sure what they'll look like moving forward. And they had commissioned a report to kind of develop a plan for how they would move forward based on the governor's recommended budget, which I will come to in a minute. When we were told to treat them as one-time funds, I went to my governance council. So we have a cross-sector governance council for the 3 counties we serve. And I said, based on the allowable uses of these funds, these are our 3 aims and kind of what we would like to do in that period of time. And we were tapped to present to the Early Learning Council that's appointed by the governor about our work, which I thought was a big honor. And this is just a little piece of the work based on 2 of the aims. So up at the top, we invested some of our funds in kits that are bilingual for home visitors, so Healthy Families and Early Head Start, to give out to families in the region. And they, as they gave them out, we're also giving them some coaching on how to read with your babies. And we worked with the amazing Tracy and her team to develop some great county-specific toolkits that promote early literacy and also connect families with like their local libraries and the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, so that we're helping families build robust home libraries. And we've been promoting those materials at events throughout the year, including our little free libraries, which was another one of the ways we used funds is we stood up little free libraries at ODHS offices in the 3 counties, and that partnership has gone very well. And then one of our aims was really thinking about strengthening the skills of early childhood providers around early literacy. And we tapped Ryan's team to help us develop a workshop on the science of reading so that the early childhood educators were getting access to the same information that those K1, 2, 3 teachers were getting, kind of trying to build some alignment. And in those workshops, we also gave out a really wide variety of books to help early childhood programs build their libraries as well. So those were our 3 aims. We really tried to be careful about not building things we wouldn't be able to renew. And then in December of 2024, DELC published their plan for how they would want to see this Birth to 5 literacy initiative roll out over the next 2 biennia. And unfortunately, the governor requested $22 million in her budget. And because of the revenue forecast and the way that it had been funded, they said, well, we're going to give you the same amount as you had for 1 year in the last biennium instead of like doubling it for the full. So really the plan was built on having $22 million. So DELC is having to go back to the drawing board and figure out how to rework the plan. And we haven't heard yet. They're still working on it. We know we will get funds. We just don't know the amount yet. So in the meanwhile, while we're doing all of this work and really leveraging a lot of partnerships and natural touch points for families, we had the opportunity to apply for this new bucket of Early Literacy Success Initiative funds called the Early Literacy Success Community Grants. It was specifically only open to providers of early learning services, community-based organizations, and early learning hubs. Not all hubs are housed at ESDs, so not all ESDs were even eligible to apply. We were the only early learning hub to apply and the only early learning hub to be funded, but you'll see the list of grantees that received this are mostly community-based organizations with a really small footprint. We are trying to have kind of a regional reach and work with the 21st Century Learning Centers across our region to see if we can embed high dosage tutoring into the homework block that they have already in their program so that it's still available to families for free, which aligns with what the 21st Century Learning Center grants are also. With this grant, we have added a 1.0 FTE to my team. She just started with us on in-service, so we're excited to have her on board. We'll be launching a high dosage tutoring pilot. I will not go into all of that, but I'm happy to tell you what that means. There's also a lot of information from ODE about what is required. Like it has to be at least 10 weeks. Sessions have to be at least 3 times a week. The same tutor has to work with the same group of kids, things like that. And then we will be hoping to take what we learn at this first pilot site and co-design with a second site. I think we have our eyes on the program at Camp Cedar Ridge to talk with them about what we learned from doing this in Nestucca first and see if they want to use the same model or use a more technology enhanced platform like some of the districts have been using. But we really want to be sensitive to each local site and what they think is going to work best. And then we also are able to use these funds to support literacy-focused parenting education series as well. And we're looking at working with Abriendo Puertos. They have a series called Poder that specifically is about biliteracy and helping families advocate for their kids. And then one of our other aspirations for the next year is to bring back a program that was called Escuelita Mobile. It was a partnership between the Hub, the Migrant Education Program, and Diverse Educators Pathways. It was previously funded through the the Student Success Act for Latina families. And we had a lot of turnover internally in the leadership at our ESD, and it's a program that kind of got paused, and we'd love to see about bringing it back to serve our Spanish-speaking families to help their kids be ready for kindergarten. Tribal grants are an interesting piece of the work, and I wanted to mention them because they're part of that comprehensive picture. So initially, when this legislation rolled out, the community grants and tribal grants were lumped together, and the tribes really advocated to have them broken apart. And in 2024 legislation, it was codified that the tribal grants would be separated so that they can, as tribes, engage government to government with ODE. So the ODE is giving out non-competitive grants to the federally recognized tribes around Oregon to help with like language preservation efforts and literacy that is culturally responsive to the Indigenous peoples. That's not a piece of our work, but is work we're aware of. I wanted to end with a quote. September is many things. One of them is it's National Literacy Month. And that was enacted by UNESCO. And I really just love this quote about Literacy is inseparable from opportunity, and opportunity is inseparable from freedom. The freedom promised by literacy is both freedom from ignorance, oppression, and poverty, and freedom to do new things, to make choices, and to learn. That's what drives me and makes me really excited about our work. And that's it for us.
Are there any questions? Comments? Dr. Russell?
I'm sorry, I always have so many questions. For a generalist, can you define for me what you mean by high dosage tutoring in really simple terms?
High dosage tutoring is about helping kids catch up who might be behind on their basic literacy skills. It's also used in math, but in this context, it's about literacy skills. The state of Oregon has adopted a framework that says it has to be at least 3 times a week. That's kind of the high dosage. And it has to be at least 10 weeks long. And a big piece of kind of the cornerstone is that kids work with that same tutor. So they're building that relationship. And it's interesting because some of the national research is showing that that relationship with their tutoring is actually helping affect attendance.
That's been a confusing piece of this legislation. Given, like, educators typically would call it intervention or double dose. Like Abby described, though, the House Rules Committee wrestled with this, and everyone had an opinion on how we'd wordsmith it. And so there's a list of what constitutes high dosage tutoring. There's also a list that says how you can support your own in-house people to be high dosage tutored. And so when I was talking about the supports we provide to district partners, oftentimes that's how we're checking the high dosage tutor box, is we're supporting those classified and licensed folks to meet all the criteria.
And we're working with PDX reading specialists as our content expert.
Yeah, and there's also an approved provider list that ODEs come up with based on people who applied to be a part of it. So that thing's going to continue to grow too, I'd imagine.
I really, really, really appreciate that the consistency of having the same person supporting as part of that definition. I know from my day job in serving homeless and housing insecure youth, the consistency of having the same caseworker is arguably the most important factor. And I'm glad to see that that also translates in this setting. So thank you. I learned something new today.
Any other questions? I will just say one, on the integrated guidance, that most districts, how we follow up with that. All districts had to come up with a plan, and how we're not starting from scratch. We're trying to go. And I'm just going to say as a comment, I now know I have 2 experts to go to as I serve on the advisory position on the State Board of Education, as they wrestle with what this accountability is going to look like, and especially on the literacy part. I appreciated the open-mindedness and knowing that we're going to try to do what best practices are. But I hope you will take my phone call when there are things that come up and have questions, because obviously we are very fortunate to have such wonderful expertise in our own Northwest Regional ESD to help all of our districts as they wrestle with this really important work that the Oregon Department of Education is trying to partner with us on. So thank you. All right. All right. Well, thank you. Administrative report, Superintendent Golden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you can see, the administrative reports are very heavy on the opening of school, and I talked a lot about that already. I always kind of look through and just kind of try to find one like, oh, you know, that's amazing. That's all amazing, obviously, but there is one in the instructional services report, which John Peplinski puts together for his department. And it's just another celebration of a team. Like, it's a very powerful and mighty team, small but mighty team at the ESD, our 9th grade success team at the bottom of that report. Just talking about some of our results, which are outliers in 9th grade on track data in the state. and that our team's getting recognition at the National Summit for Improvement in Education for our continuous improvement work. I think it's just a really cool that it's good about. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions about the reports.
Any questions about the reports? All right, thank you very much. Now we'll move on to action items. On cue, were you like waiting? Does he have entrance music that we need to play, or is there an entrance music, a drum roll? What would you like? So right on cue, we turn the floor over to you.
Thank you. Well, good evening. I am Dr. Lowaru. I am the Senior Director of Equity and Family Partnerships. Excited to bring to you today our resolution for the month. As many know, we as an organization not only recognize a variety of different ways in which we celebrate and learn about our cultures and our communities around us, but we also include action items so that this is not a let's celebrate, this performative, we hear about these good things, but there are resources that are at the end that combine the opportunities for our own personal learning, opportunities for us to be able to instruct, so instructional materials, books, etc., for our youth are used in the classroom, and then also usually an encouragement to be able to go to an event, go to a community, support an organization or a business. And so we've been able to continue that today. So I'll read this brief resolution for your consideration. So whereas Hispanic, Latino, and Latinx or Latinx cultures have fostered innovation, resilience, and community across science, arts, education, agriculture, civic life, and beyond, making our region stronger and more vibrant. Nationally, this observation was designated as Hispanic Heritage Week in 1968 and expanded to a month in 1988, commencing on September 15th. A date rich with significance for Central American, Mexican, and Chilean independence, as well as broader cultural remembrance. Institutions such as the San Diego County Office of Education bring added dimension by recognizing not just contributions, but also historical civil rights milestones, like Roberto Alvarez versus Lemon Grove, considered the first successful school desegregation court decision in the nation, and by affirming year-round strategies to uplift Hispanic and Latinx students through equity, advisory councils, recruitment, and community partnerships. Several of our component districts emphasize the use of inclusive language, for example, Latinx, and underscore the contributions of Hispanic and Latinx leadership in governance and community, including board members and administrators. Likewise, more of our districts have adopted inclusive terminology, example of a Latino and Latina, a Latinx, and highlight representation on their sites. Latino, Latinx students making up large portions of their district's population with instructional and leadership practices aligned with equity strategic planning. Northwest Regional ESD serves a richly diverse student body, whereas Hispanic or Latinx learners and families are essential contributors to the cultural, academic, and civic life of our schools and communities. So now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Directors of Northwest Regional Education Service District proclaims September 15th to October 15th, 2025 as Hispanic, Latino, Latinx Heritage Month, a time to honor the history, culture, and enduring vibrance of Hispanic and Latino Latinx communities across our district and beyond. Affirms that this observance is more than symbolic. It is part of an ongoing commitment to cultural affirmation, student-centered equity, and educational excellence for Hispanic, Latino, and Latinx learners and staff, and calls upon all schools, family, staff, and community partners to engage meaningfully in activities that elevate and celebrate Hispanic, Latino, and Latinx voices, culturally responsive curricula, including history, literature, STEM, and the arts, community-led events like student showcases, bilingual panels, storytelling and performances, leadership and mentorship opportunities for Hispanic Latinx youth to inspire peer learning and civic engagement. Encourages student continuing efforts throughout the year to expand representation of Hispanic and Latinx educators and administrators, strengthening partnerships with culturally affirming organizations and community groups, foster student identities through inclusive spaces, multilingual communication, and heritage celebrations beyond October. Emerges from a self-belief, emerges from a belief that embracing and celebrating diverse cultures, including Hispanic, Latino, and Latinx traditions, empowers all students to thrive academically, socially, and civically. Thank you.
With that, do I have a motion?
This is Mira. I so move to approve the resolution.
All right. It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of the motion to move that the Northwest Regional ESD approve Resolution 26-003 as presented, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
All right. Hearing from one of our newest maybe. Adam, please join us to speak to us about the Willamette Promise Intergovernmental Agreement. Welcome.
Thank you. All right, Madam Chair, members of the board, thanks for having me this evening. I'm here to provide you with a brief update on our partnership with the Willamette ESD and the Willamette Promise, and to request the approval of the intergovernmental agreement between Northwest Regional ESD and the Willamette ESD. I come to this conversation tonight with a little bit of experience about this program. As the administrator hired in 2016 to oversee the higher education partnerships, and years later, I became the program coordinator, then later on the director. So I promise if you have questions about this contract, I can probably answer them. But this is a special program to me. The inception of this program in 2014 was when superintendents in Marion, Polk, and Yamhill County came together and said that they had kind of reached a point where they needed some help in expanding access to dual and concurrent enrollment programs. And so, like many problems that our districts confront, they asked the ESD to help them solve that. And so that's what happened down there. We started with 21 school districts and 2 higher education partners in Western Oregon University and the Oregon Institute of Technology. This program has since expanded to serve 55 districts across 6 ESD regions. It's been a really successful program. And so in this full circle moment, it's a pleasure to be here talking about it and asking the board to approve the IGA in front of you. A couple just kind of nuances about this program, even though it's housed out of Willamette ESD, a lot of there are people in Northwest Regional ESD with really kind of key critical governance positions in this work. Superintendent Goldman serves as an advisory board member, as does Dr. Ethan from Tigard Tualatin, as well as Brooke Nova, who's the assistant superintendent from Hillsborough. So it's housed at Willamette, but really the governance structure is broad. So I wanted to point that out for the board. To date, students have earned over $35 million in college credits from this program. It's an extraordinary impact. And to be here today and kind of reflect on the work that we've done, the work that Dan's done, we have put a lot of time and energy and effort into making this program the success story that it is. And even though it's been truly successful for students and educators in Washington and Columbia County, at the same time, I do want to acknowledge the work that's still ahead. Our coastal and our rural communities in this region deserve the best as well. And so I am eager to explore what's possible with the leaders in those counties. There's a lot of energy and effort in our state currently to modify some of the laws that have been codified in Chapter 589 around who is eligible to offer dual credit and who isn't, specifically with the community colleges. And so I think this is kind of a natural inflection point where I think there's a lot to celebrate because this program's awesome, but there's a lot to do still. So as happy as I am and as proud as I am to present this contract, I am truly energized by what is still to come and the opportunities that we haven't yet imagined. So thank you for your time this evening, and I respectfully request that you approve the intergovernmental agreement, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Are there any questions for Doug?
Adam, I've been involved with this early on too, and it's one of those that I'm hoping that they have been doing a lot of research on could you just explain the impact, say, two students, seniors graduating, going to college. One has 9 credits of college credit going into college, the other does not. Can you explain sort of the difference?
Yeah, and I'm thinking that Dr. Paul could probably explain it a little bit better than I can, but there has been a lot of intentionality, especially with like lower division transfer courses, that we are really purposeful in the credits that students earn in high school. And there's more research, I think, being done in dual credit than ever before. But there's a lot of data and research to kind of back up that if you can hit that 9 credit point to your that the likelihood of you going to college, but not only going to college, but the retention rates really improve. So the magic number seems to be 9, to your point, but those credits need to be purposeful and really intentional to support students in their transition.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Paul.
Thanks, Adam. So as you mentioned, you alluded to the proposed changes in the requirements, minimum qualifications requirements. Historically, universities such as, Western Oregon or Oregon Institute of Technology sets their own minimum qualifications for teachers, whether that is dual credit or in the university itself. Whereas in legislation, community colleges had those minimum qualifications set by the state. And those minimum qualifications typically were master's degrees in disciplines, which historically present huge barriers, especially to our rural areas, right? Because many of our teachers don't possess those, right? And they're very good teachers nonetheless, right? Do you, with that language likely moving through, I know there's been a delay in it due to pushback from some of the unions, but I do anticipate that language will move through. What impact do you see that having perhaps on agreements with an agreement like this with Willamette Promise if community colleges then have some of those barriers that have been removed administratively from them being able to offer those classes in the high school to the extent that they could, right? They still may not have teachers that they would deem qualified to do that.
That is an outstanding question. I do think, and this response might resonate with you, that it will take a few years to kind of for the dust to settle. But the approach or the philosophy that I generally take is that that making the pie bigger is never a bad thing, and expanding and broadening access is always a good thing. And so I'm hopeful that programs like this will continue to exist, and programs in your community can also can broaden access to serve more students. So I truly believe that there's a place for all of the programs here. So I'm just hopeful that the law change could make it so we have less kind of haves and have-nots, and that all districts, rural, urban, et cetera, can have broad access to these courses.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think there's another thing that I think we need to try to have happen. Maybe I'm speaking about this more in my day job role than on the board, but there needs to be, I think, since we do want students to have access in as many ways possible as they can, and we want that access to be as equitable as we can within those school districts, which we know it's not even now, still, right? Even with more and more access, it's still not equitable. I think that it's important for the different providers, if you will, if I can use that word right, of dual credit, to be able to coordinate with each other, because it is important that students have not just a college transcript, but a college transcript that accelerates their degree or certificate objectives, right? And not be saddled with credits that might not be useful or transfer or eat up Oregon Promise dollars that are out there.
Yep.
So I encourage us to work together as we move forward to try to, and with other community colleges in the service district, to be able to make that happen for our students.
And I'm happy to report that Superintendent Goldman and I will make what will be my first trip out to Tillamook County next Wednesday. And so I'm really excited to start those conversations.
Any other questions or comments? I'll just say, we are so fortunate to have you join us and to bring all the work that you've done with the Willamette ESD for us to share and expand so that our rural and our coastal communities can benefit for that. And it just makes us that much stronger to, with the programs that we already have, and be able to expand that. But you are a welcome addition to our ESD. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
I don't think Willamette feels the same.
Well, we're not getting into that kind of match. No. All right. Is there a motion?
I will move to approve the Willamette Promise Intergovernmental Agreement.
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. Didn't do this last time, by Director Durrell and seconded by Director Riley, that we approve the 2025-26 Willamette Promise IGA as presented. Is there any discussion? Seeing none? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very
Thank you. All right, next order of business, the August 2025 financial report. Jordan.
Thank you, Chair Timchuk, members of the board. It's good to be with you all tonight. I always say a boring financial report's a good financial report. This is a boring report. There is one little bit of excitement, which is in our special revenue fund. It is cash positive, which is the culmination of a lot of work done last year to change the funding model for the distribution model for EIE, CSE, and regional inclusive services. So at the moment, we are sitting at an operating surplus of $5 million. In addition to our $31 million estimated beginning fund balance, we are still being audited for last year, so the beginning fund balance could change. I did not go through historical financial reports, but I would venture to guess this is the first August we've had an operating surplus. So that's cause for celebration. And the general fund is doing just slightly better than I expected when we were developing the budget last year. So nothing really to report on the financial report. The main thing I wanted to point out to the board is that the column on the financial report that says projections, it's just matched to the budget. It's not, these aren't actual projections. This is way too early in the year. Dan and I met with Kai Turner from ODE today, who gave us a little bit of a rundown on their process to get us our grant agreements and all of that kind of stuff. And they haven't even submitted their reconciled budget to the Department of Administrative Services yet. That's due legislatively on Friday. And then the Department of Administrative Services has a month to review that reconciliation. So we're still a month out from even getting our grant agreements, with the exception of EIE, CSE, and RISE, which they got to us early this year. So when you see projections in this report, both the revenue and the expenditures are very likely overstated because we do budget with a little bit of extra room on the appropriations, especially in the special revenue fund. You look like you have something to say.
It's just a celebration point, and I think Jordan's being very, you're being very clear, but you're not adding the surprise factor, because as the board recalls, and we have some new board members, at this time last year, by December of last year, we still had not been paid for these grant agreements, and we were operating the programs 2 years ago. And we almost had to take loans out to pay people and that kind of thing. And so Maureen and Becky helped us greatly by prodding the legislature that this was a problem that we could not solve on our own. And we got a lot of movement. And so we finally, for the first time since I've been in ESD, and that's not been very long, but 7 years, we actually are not spending money we don't have and trying to make and having problems making payroll. So thank you to the board members and thank you to Jordan for all his work on that. So it's something.
And we really just needed to educate the Department of Administrative Services is what we needed to do. So we did that with the help of some key legislators that just educated. Once people are aware,
They do better.
they do better. Yes.
Yeah.
So we're just holding accountable. That's the buzzword of the year. We're just
That's right.
holding them accountable. So thank you with that. Any questions of Jordan on the financials?
No, just gratitude for our powerhouse board members that engaged our legislators, educated our legislators.
I wish they were all this easy. All right. Do we have a motion?
I move we approve the August 2025 financial report.
I seconded.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded, moved by Director Riley and seconded by Director Graham, that we approve the financial report through 8/31/25 as presented. Is there any discussion on the motion? With no discussion, proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, on to the next order of business, the Cascade Pacific Columbia Annex contract.
Okay, thank you. We issued a request for proposals for a renovation at CASPAC, and the purpose of this renovation would be to provide some recreation space for these students. One of our neighbors vacated a chunk of the building right next door to CASPAC, and it's just a large open space and a blank canvas for us. So the program defined some requirements for what this would look like. We worked with an architect to design the renovation, and the renovation will include creating these recreation spaces, these 4 distinct recreation spaces, adding in an HVAC system, updating the fire protection system, and then doing work to the walls and casework and things like that to make it a suitable learning facility. And then also prepping the site, not yet doing a commercial kitchen, but prepping the site for a commercial kitchen in the future that could be used for life skills programming. We only received 2 bids, one from Kirby Nagelhout and the other from Inline. Inline is the construction company that did this facility. And we had a great experience with them, but their bid was significantly higher. So after a thorough vetting process to make sure that the Kirby Nagelhout bid was responsive and responsible, we are recommending that we move forward with the board's permission with a contract with Kirby Nagelhout not exceeding $379,000 for this work.
Any questions? With that, can I entertain a motion? Dr. Riley?
I'll move we approve the ASPAC Annex contract.
Mrs. Mira, I will second.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded that we move to authorize the staff to execute a contract with Kirby Nagelhout in the amount not to exceed $379,000 as presented. Any discussion on the motion? With that, I will ask for all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, board.
Next order of business is the OSBA Board and Legislative Policy Committee nominations. Superintendent.
I'm just looking at Valerie, but I'm going to do it. I'm doing it. All right, Valerie. So this is basically OSBA has two elected bodies that are elected by other school board members. One is their board, the other is their Legislative Policy Committee, the LPC. And this year in 2025, all even number board positions plus 2 other ones that are not in our region, and all the Legislative Policy Committee positions are currently up for election. And so this is an opportunity for school boards and ESD boards from across the state to nominate people for consideration, and then they will go on a ballot, and then boards will elect in their regions. And so with that, this is an opportunity for people to nominate interested people, and usually boards don't nominate people that don't know that they're going to get nominated first. That's not nice. It's bullying. So it is usually a time where a board member says, I would like to be nominated for this position. So with that, I will allow the board chair to nominate herself probably for this. But I'll turn it over to you.
Maureen, I'm looking at you. You look like you need something else on.
Oh, God.
No. When I came to this board, I had already been serving in this position for 4 terms on the Beaverton School Board, and then you folks nominated me 2 years ago. So this will be my 6th time asking for this nomination. And
For the LPC.
For the legislative policy position, position number 16. Position, yes, the legislative policy position, not the board position. And but we will be looking at the board position. We will vote on that by December, I think. So I'm asking you to nominate me and to continue in this position for the next 2 years. So if someone would like to do that,
I'll nominate you.
There's a second.
Nice. We're all seconding you.
So it's been properly moved and seconded that we nominate Becky Kinchuk to the legislative policy committee, nominate where other boards will be voting on that. But I appreciate the nomination. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? So moved. Thank you very much. All right, those are our last action items. Last up are any board member comments this evening. All right, I will take that as well. One of our own, if you've not had a chance to read the newspaper today or watch the news, our own vice chair, Maureen, has found herself in the last 24 hours in a new temporary position, and Maureen will be serving as the mayor pro tem of the city of Tigard.
Something like that.
So we're going to give her some grace here as she juggles a lot of things. But I just want to say, if Tigard's got to be in good hands, couldn't it be any better than Maureen? So
Something about the potholes.
Well, I appreciate you, Becky, the kind words. And I certainly, when I went like that was not about OSBA. That's just my mind right now, which is a little bit frazzled, but just appreciate the kind words. Council's just ready to do the really important work and serve our community. And so right now I'm the Band-Aid, and then we'll figure all that out on September 23rd. So. But if any of you are Tigard community members, feel free to reach out and chat with me about what's going on. So
potholes and houseless shelters and whatever else comes up. But what I would like to say, I know all of us wear many different hats, and I appreciate your dedication, board members, to especially during these difficult times, and really appreciate how the superintendent keeps us well informed and up to date. So with that, if there are no more board comments, we are adjourned until our next board meeting is on October 8th at 6 o'clock at the Vernonia School District office. So with that, we are adjourned.
Tonight.
See you, everyone.
Yeah.
I just felt so